It's the cocktail hour that shakes and stirs up pharmacy. Welcome to PBM on the Rocks.
Thank you.
EBCs. I can't believe they're still pushing that. I thought they'd give up.
It reminds me
so
when
bad.
Coke, when Coke tried, when Coke did that debacle all those years ago.
Oh, the new Coke.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
call it New Coke. That's a good idea.
Such a bad idea. But, I mean, I guess they're going to double down on this completely terrible idea. All right. Well, the first and most important question is, what is everybody drinking tonight?
I have a Tia Maria here.
Okay. That sounds really good, actually. What about you, Lord Dr. Jeremy?
I've got an iced Irish whiskey.
Ooh.
And I
nice.
will then transition into iced whiskey.
Why iced?
I'm not going to drink warm whiskey.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Shannon, what are you drinking?
Well, it is cold and rainy. Unlike 2 days ago when it was warm and sunny. So I am drinking a hot toddy.
Oh, that sounds nice.
So,
Nice.
I swear, the weather is so weird this year. I have decided that it's not that Mother Nature went off her meds; it's that the PBMs denied her meds. It's the PBMs.
There you go. Yeah, that happened. They probably did some non-medical switching on her meds.
I know, right?
Yeah, she's having to do fail first protocols. Sorry, it worked really well, but we get a better rebate on these. So sorry, Mother Nature. Use these instead. Hey, Lauren, what are you drinking?
A Paloma.
That sounds so good. I had a Paloma on Sunday.
What is a Paloma? I've never heard of it.
Tequila, grapefruit, and a splash of soda.
Oh,
That's
Delicious.
great. So I'm drinking an espresso martini. I mean, dessert before dinner always. Mark, tell us about your big Optum win.
well, unfortunately, I just found out today they denied publication, but in any way, it's still a binding decision on Optum. So
Yeah.
it's very big because California law applies to this piece of crap contract, and it was very resounding opinion. Actually, was even more emphatic than I expected. So what they said about how basically it's just shoved down pharmacy's throat. They don't even get to see it. They're not asked to approve it. It's just dictated to them, and it's blatantly unfair. So it's what we've been saying for years. It's good to see it in writing with 3 judges signing off on it.
Yeah.
And
Was there a reason they wouldn't publicate that?
I have no idea. I really just don't. A majority of their opinions they don't publish. The official reason is that there's nothing new about it. There's nothing new in the law here. We have an argument in Wisconsin tomorrow. The judge in Wisconsin was very interested in this opinion. We had a very good argument there a couple of weeks ago, and we'll see. But they're definitely on the run now. I mean,
Yep.
now there's no place to hide.
Yeah, they got to start feeling a little cornered whenever, even the politicians are changing what they're saying from just a little while ago and coming out with strong language that really they had reserved almost exclusively for the drug manufacturers. Now they're turning it on PBMs.
Right.
So
right.
it's nice to see.
Right.
And I really think Eli Lilly and everyone else coming out and talking about what they're going to do with insulin prices just shows right there what this is doing.
Did Novo Nordisk also say they're dropping the price? I heard another.
Yeah.
So
Everyone's
what does
following
it mean?
suit.
Does this mean they're not going to pay rebates anymore? How can they afford to drop the price?
I don't know if anybody really knows. I mean, that's such a good question.
They can
But the
afford it.
backlash-
If they cut out the rebates, they can drop it that low.
Well,
and
I know they have to
don't
cut
lose
out the
money.
rebates. Yeah, they have to cut out the rebates.
So it's just one of the biggest examples, and it's a real world example where we show if you cut these fuckers out, it will actually bring down costs. And despite
Enormously.
what all the health economists who blew smoke up everyone's asses said for years, I want every single one of them to kiss my ass because they will get online and argue.
Can you
with
say
me.
that on
And they'll
Twitter
be
without
like,
getting in
"Oh,
trouble?
this pharmacist doesn't understand." Bitch, look at this fucking shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The backlash has been interesting, or at least what I've seen. A lot of people, they think it is the manufacturers 100% that they were just, ripping off the public this entire time, which is frustrating because there's not enough transparency still on the manufacturing side to be able to say this was not the case. But for sure, the rebates, for sure. And the fact that it's happened and that they're demonstrating that, they can make these cuts and rebates be damned, I think is a good step in the right direction.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Wasn't it reported that within like a day of Lilly announcing that they were doing, like a bottom out on pricing, that they were dropped from major insurance plans, formularies?
Caremark
I
plans.
remember.
Yeah.
Which plans?
Caremark.
If that
Yep.
doesn't say
Yeah, I
something
remember
right
that.
there.
Unbelievable.
Yep. That's
I
why
mean,
when
it's
you're
like-
referring to Mother Nature, as if it were like under a PBM plan, a PBM would push a hurricane because they could take a cut of all the the reconstruction
That's
money.
a great
rather than
line. That's a
good
great
weather.
line. That's a great line. I mean, the ladies wear a big sign on their chest saying, "We are corrupt." It's like
Exactly.
unbelievable.
I don't even think they care anymore. I think they're pretty much like, yeah, we're corrupt, but what are you going to do about it? Because we've got all the lives. So you want to have access to patients, you got to deal with us. Yes, we are Satan.
Mhm.
We have the revenue of a small nation. What are you going to do? That's pretty much what they've done.
Pretty
Absolutely.
much. They're horrible. They really are, which is why this whole rebranding campaign, which is hands down the worst rebranding campaign I've ever seen since probably New Coke. For all those young people who were listening a long time ago, before you were born, Coca-Cola decided to try this thing where they made New Coke. And I don't know, some of us think it was a giant hoax just so that they could then get like
Yeah,
on the old Coke.
they got a lot of free publicity out of it.
Yeah, they did. Good
You
Lord.
know that they paid someone a huge amount of money to like look at all this and be like, the problem is people think the word manager is bad. No, that's what happened. They got a fucking
Absolutely.
publicity team
Yeah.
together, and that's what they came up with was manager is bad. If you change this might be better.
Yeah,
Oh,
use
yeah.
company. Companies
Yeah.
is much better.
Because
Oh, the
companies are
focus
so
group.
warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
They should have made PBB, Pharmacy Benefit Buddy. For your pharmacy benefit buddy with like a little stuffed animal logo.
Oh God. With friends like those, who needs enemies, Mark?
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Here comes Cuddles, the pharmacy benefit vampiric panda.
Oh gosh. No, I was watching a Texas hearing yesterday because I'm a huge fan of Dr. Tom Oliverson, but there was a new face. She is for Texans for Affordable Healthcare. And I know that we've talked about this, on some of the PUTT boards and different threads and things like that about how that's just basically a cover up for PCMA. But they have changed their websites and they took PCMA off of their websites. Finally, whoever at their marketing decided this is a bad idea. And so Dr. Oliverson asked her after she was done who it was that funds her, because he wasn't aware of her advocacy group and any of that. She refused to tell him and just said, oh, we can't let our donors become public. And he said, well, is it a Fortune 500 trade group? Who is it that is funding you? And she said, oh, it's just the Americans for Healthcare Affordability. And so it's the same spiel that they give in all the states, but that's usually who they have put out different letters to the editor and a ton of social media things. And it's just, they were opposing Senator Cantwell's bill today that was heard in the committee. And so it was just interesting to see their rebranding, because she said, oh, well, we've gone through a rebranding. I'm like, of course you have. So they're doing it on all of their platforms, all of their stuff. So it's not just changing from PBM to PBC or WTF or whatever they're going to call themselves. They're really changing, trying to make it look like they have more people in their corner, because there's legislators that are not believing anything they're saying. And they're having a hard time in these committee hearings really answering those questions when they're put on the spot of, well, who's funding you? Because it's clearly not the patients that are getting screwed. They're not signing up in droves for you. Is it the employers that you're gaslighting and saying that you're passing the savings on? Who is it? So that was interesting to actually see a chair of a committee go after them like that.
That's
I mean,
so
I want to
awesome.
see the
Not a
employers
major
get
red
pissed once the
flag?
FTC shit comes out. Like if they release a lot of that, the employer's got to be mad.
They should
Mhm.
be.
Oh, absolutely. They just say, and the questions that a lot of people are asking now are, is this savings going back to the patient? Because the legislators are hearing from the patients. They're mad. They're not typically hearing from, besides the pharmacy business owners, they're not typically hearing from a business owner or an HR person. So they don't see that. They hear PCMA say, oh, no, they're sending those rebates or they're passing those through to the plan sponsor or the employer. And that's lowering the premiums. But no business owner that I've spoken to in the last 3 years have had a premium go down. So they're not really
Yeah,
passing
no,
on that savings.
no.
That's like having a sale on an item that you overcharged on just so you can keep your profit. So
That came up
Absolutely.
today in the Arizona hearing. So here in Arizona, we're running a PBM regulation bill. It's a very small bill. We're one of just a handful of states that doesn't currently have any kind of a licensure requirement on PBMs, which is amazing when you think about that, because a few years ago, like nobody had licensure of PBMs. Now we're finally joining the ranks of everybody else. And even though, we did negotiate really hard just to get this bill, and all it really does is give our Department of Insurance some jurisdiction over the process of patients complain. Even then, the PCMA lobbyist went to the front. She's like, oh, we're neutral on this bill. And then she started arguing for how really there is recourse. There's recourse for patients. There's recourse for providers. And as she was painting the picture of the recourse, you could just see the legislators, except for one who probably made an agreement to be on the side of the insurers. But you could just see the picture she was painting was one of that sort of like cycle that people get stuck in. You have recourse. Sure you do. You call to complain to the PBM that's owned by the insurer. The insurer ostensibly can do something about it, except they're not going to, because they're making tons of money off of their PBM, which they own. And then when you go to the Department of Insurance to try to get some recourse, they're like, sorry, we actually don't have any authority. Here's the law. The law covers this much. And the area you're talking about is outside of our jurisdiction, right? So, but she's up there arguing for it, which is what they do, create confusion, create layers, create complexity where there doesn't need to be any. And what it does is it intimidates people. And I think you're right, Lauren. I think that patients are fed up with it. And thank God that they are. And because some of the most compelling stories that I've heard have come from, parents and caregivers and the patients themselves.
Isn't that the definition of not neutral?
Yeah.
yeah, when you're opposing something, yes. Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
They argue we have recourse. Who outside of Deb has won a MAC pricing dispute? Like it doesn't happen. They just ignore you.
Yeah, well, yeah. I can give you data on that.
Yeah.
95% denial rate. 95% denial rate.
Wow. Wow. So Mark,
It's
I want to go
crazy.
back to your lawsuit. I was reading the decision on that. It was so encouraged. And I was curious about the dissenting. Well,
It was a concurring opinion.
concurring, not naming any names of those judges, but I was kind of curious because he seemed to be saying,
It's a shame. That
yeah,
was
well, they kind of have some responsibility because they contract their PSAOs.
Well, first of all, what was very weird about her opinion was she relied on two sources, the GAO report and a law review article. Now, and I went back and looked at this. Although they have used the GAO report in a lot of cases, they didn't use it in that case that I could find anywhere. So if you look in there, at one point, the majority says in a footnote, she's relying on a bunch of things that are not even in the record, which is a complete no-no. Complete no-no. You have to base your decision on what's the record before the court.
No one was cheering for her during
Yeah, it
her
probably
oral
confused the issue, and she actually contradicted her opinion of things she said in the argument. What's useful about it, from my point of view, is that they have used the GAO report in other cases, and what I've said in other courts winds up being a little prophetic here. I say, if you believe everything in that GAO report, we think it's complete BS, but if you believe everything in it, we still win. And what she said, I believe everything in it, and they still win. So, from that point of view, it's good.
And she was like the judge equivalent of that legislator who, before they vote, they say, I'm going to explain my vote. And then they go on and on and on with a bunch of rhetoric nobody really cares about. And then at the end, they'll say something like, and so I vote yes. or and so I vote no, right? And the whole time you're like, you could have just voted yes or no and not said any of that, because all that stuff you just said is not even remotely relevant to anything. It's like some fever dream. Like that happened in my hearing. This guy's on and on and on and on forever. I'm sure he's still talking. I don't know. Then it was like, and so I vote no. Okay, thank you. We all knew
I once spent 3 days in the U.S. Supreme Court because I had a case down there. So I was there I figured I better watch a couple of these because I'd never seen it before. So I was there for 3 days, and Justice Breyer was like that. He just wanted to hear himself talk. He just wanted to hear himself talk. And he wanted to show how he's the smartest guy in the room. So he would just go on and asking this questions and then this dialogue. And it was exactly the same thing. So she
I don't know anybody like that.
And since she was being paid by the word, I think she, really got value in there. Yeah, it's fascinating.
With that win, it makes all of your cases in California in that district, you'll be able to bypass arbitration, correct?
Not yet. No. We're sure that because they changed the clause after, they changed the clause. So now they're fighting over the new clause.
Ah, gotcha.
So now we got to say they can't change it retroactively. We lost that in an issue in Orange County. Can't change it retroactively. We had a judge said they can. So I will hope that this will now, because they said it right in this opinion, you can't change it retroactively.
And that's why I guess they pay attorneys like the big bucks or whatever, because that also is happening, I guess, in Arizona with the DIRB case with AIDS Healthcare Foundation. I heard that they were now changing the contracts so that the win that the AIDS Healthcare Foundation had, no one else could really get that. Now that's I explain that well.
Who did you hear that from? Because I hadn't heard that.
I'm going to have to go back and check my source. I'll tell you it was not.
No, they definitely changed the arbitration clause to say that you couldn't use, everything is super secret. And you can't use any ruling in any other case in this case, and can't share any information. It's just, what can I say? It's absurd. Who gets to write their own rules?
Yeah, they have so much power. They can do what they want. They ignore laws. I mean, they do. Yeah, then they'll get a slap on the wrist for fines. I mean, they get caught every single year committing straight up Medicare, Medicaid fraud. And it's just slap on the wrist. No one does anything about it. So that's exactly why I think they can get away with like rebranding to PBCs, even though it's terrible. They're used to just doing whatever they want and it works. Like there's no failure for them.
Right.
I'm thinking there might be value in suggesting they switch over to Pharmacy Benefit Buddy or Pharmacy Benefit Panda.
Wait. PBPs?
Yeah,
that sounds like
because I could write another letter to them. Dear PCMA, we have an idea for you.
No, but everyone listening, if you're not part of Mark's lawsuits, you need to get on that immediately. If you own a pharmacy, you need to get on that.
Yeah,
we really welcome more people, especially now more than ever. And
my dad's always asking for updates on it.
That's right. Mark, you helped my dad get into advocacy. Pardon? You helped my dad get into advocacy.
Oh, did I?
Yes, he's been a pharmacist for 50 years, and he always said, I'll handle the pharmacy stuff and someone else can handle the advocacy stuff, which is how I had to get involved. And whenever he heard about this lawsuit and he knew, and Dave Falk talked to him about it, he was like, well, this is a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we sent in our reports and it's very easy.
And I was talking with a pharmacist myself today who is a member of that lawsuit. And that person was very, very excited about the progress that was being made.
Yeah.
You are doing really good work, Mark, though. It's for all the
you're a rock star in this community.
Like shredding on PBMs and all the BS that they perpetrate. It's really great to know that you're out there doing this work and making this kind of difference. Because, for us here at PUTT, and by the way, for anyone who's listening who's not a PUTT member, please consider joining us too, because we're getting on things like what Mark's doing.
Absolutely.
But we encounter so much, and there's not a lot of hope out there sometimes. And so it's great when something like what you're doing comes along and there are victories. And this isn't your first. You had a string of victories. So there's something.
Now,
I wish we could take all of the resources from a certain organization and give them to Mark.
Which organization are you talking about, Jeremy?
I don't want it to get edited out.
PCMA. He means PCMA. PCMA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like the MAC pricing is huge. I thought they were going to come through for the DIR lawsuit, and then it turned out that wasn't happening at all. And then they just, okay, you got your way. It's moved to the front end. I guess we're done with DIR. No, that's not what we wanted. Oh my God. Now I got to tell all these people, sorry. I straight up cannot feel this.
Man, it's just one more really terrible thing about being the pharmacist in this thing. I spend more time explaining to people, the pharmacist is in this equation. They're the one that has to break the bad news on top of the bad news to the patient. Already, this is the change in your coverage. Now it's going to be this much more money. It's terrible. It is terrible that you have to be the one breaking that news. I don't know if any of you ever saw that truly awful GoodRx commercial where the waitress comes walking in with her 2 babies in the middle of the night to get some medication. She's like, oh, please don't let it be too much. And the pharmacist is like, I'm sorry, it's, $6,000. And, clearly. And then the waitress is
I've never
like,
seen that commercial.
I love how the pharmacist in the commercials always clamoring to use that GoodRx card. Like, oh, don't worry. Why can't any of us do that? We ain't got shit to do except run your shitty card, have it take a ding out of us, and it give you a higher price anyway. Oh.
Yeah. Well, what would be great is if patients would be like, and I know many of them are now, but if they would be like, hey, so let's just say I didn't use my insurance. How much would this cost? And we were talking with a pharmacy yesterday who was explaining about how one of her patients, the insurance, this by the way, is a patient steering story. And we will definitely have her on a future episode because it's just so egregious. But she was talking about how her patient gets this letter and the letter's like, oh, sorry, you have to now go to the Walmart pharmacy. Her copay on this drug is $81. It's $81 at the community pharmacy. It's $81 at Walmart. But the drug, it's on the independent pharmacy's $6 cash list. $6 for this $81 drug, right? 81 at Walmart, 81 here, all through your insurance. And what happens is I just wish people could try to understand this, because I know it's hard, but that $81, it doesn't go to the pharmacy. It doesn't go back to your plan. It goes back to the PBM. You'll pay the $81 to the pharmacy. And then what happens is the PBM comes in like, thank you, we're going to take that $81 and we're going to give the pharmacy nothing. In fact, we're going to actually make them pay for the privilege of even having interacted with you for this drug, this generic drug, right?
Yeah, because according to CVS's lobbyist, we make so much money on the front end, we use our drugs as loss leaders. Who the fuck uses a $1,200 drug as a loss leader? Jesus, it's ridiculous.
Well, that should tell you something about how much money they're making. $1,200 drug is a loss leader. It's like $1,200 milk. Yeah, welcome to my grocery store. I can afford to give away the $1,200 milk as a loss leader. Check out our grass-fed beef section.
I can't afford any loss leaders. They're killing us right now. It's ridiculous. Like, it's gotten even worse this year, but I'm noticing a new trend. I think they're contracting us in not their preferred networks or whatever. I think they're contracting us for the 30-day supplies and saying, oh, well, this pharmacy's still in your network to full patients. And then lo and behold, after a few fills, they got to get a 90-day supply. And then I go to fill a 90-day supply and they're like, oh, no, you got to go to the 90-day supply pharmacy that we own. So it's like we're in network, but we're not in network.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's their new little game. I'm seeing that a whole lot more this year.
Yeah, well, don't feel bad, Jeremy, because the PCMA lobbyist that was working on our bill here in Arizona wanted everyone to know that there's been a huge misunderstanding, and they don't actually manage the pharmacy networks.
Oh my! Yeah, sure.
Huge misunderstanding.
Didn't they also say that they don't create the pharmacy network?
They don't create the networks. They don't do anything like that.
Wait, I thought we were valued partners.
Yeah, she is the same one that last year said that too. You're valued partners. We love our pharmacy partners. We love them. Because we squeeze all of the money out of them.
I'd like to show them how much I love them, but I get banned from Twitter again.
You just got back, Jeremy. Let's not put you in Twitter
back.
jail.
I don't need to get banned again.
Whatever you do, don't use the words burn or down.
No, don't use the words burn or down. or tweet guillotines at their executives.
No, definitely don't do that.
I'm a passionate man. I got to be me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. There's some pretty bad stuff out there on Twitter now. I mean, I don't know, maybe under Elon Musk's management. Or
Oh, not at Hokey Farm? No.
Oh, give me Twitter for a few days. It'll be interesting.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Oh Lord, will CVS get banned?
Yes. I'm trying to make the world a better place, not a fair place.
That's right. That's right.
Do any of
I
you
have a
read the
question for you.
comments that people put whenever so PCMA, they're so stuck to this branding campaign. They're
they're really going to the mat with this, huh?
They
Yeah.
really are. And the funny thing is, do you remember when they first launched it, they actually said patient benefit company?
They
Yes.
did.
It got so much pushback. I remember when I looked, I saw that, and then I walked into same stakeholder meeting with the same people on the opposite side. And the lobbyist was waxing poetic about how there's this huge misunderstanding about all the things they do. And I was like, do you even know that your client is currently trying to call themselves a patient benefit company? I'm like, nobody is buying it, right? She did what she always does. She did that like Mean Girls thing where she doesn't respond. And then I'm over here like, was I on mute? I mean, I'm live sitting here with all these people, but maybe you heard me sad.
Were you wearing sweatpants on the wrong day?
Well, we were all supposed to be wearing pink, but apparently it was a good
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how they tried to pull that off. And they straight up in hearings will say, well, our actual clients are the plans and the employers. The patients don't actually matter. And whenever they get backed into a corner, because that's true, like that's how they work. And so I think they realized quickly that branding was not going to work at all.
Yeah, I think
No.
the thunder that got rained down on their heads informed them that was maybe not the best way. So they, in that A/B testing, they were like, okay, we'll go with B, pharmacy benefit company, because that sounds so friendly.
Well, if they're not managing anything, they can't really be a manager. And so I feel like that
They're giving the benefit. They're giving the benefit. They don't manage the benefit. They're giving the benefit.
Well, they're coming out right now and they're trying to be like, we're not just middlemen. Yeah, you fucking are. You are the definition of middlemen in all the worst context.
Exactly. Oh,
It's
Mark, so I have a
really
question
middleman.
for you real quick. So some of the phrasing that gets thrown around in committee hearings,
Mhm.
since several legislators are lawyers, so thought I'd like your opinion on this. They have kind of told us that using the word unfair, they feel like that makes us owners sound whiny. So what are some phrases that our listeners could
Yeah,
kind of
I think that's true. I mean, I agree with you. Unfair is too broad and vague a term. Reminds me when your kid said to you, "It's not fair. It's not fair," and you always say, "Your life's not fair."
So do you go with unethical?
Suck it up.
Unethical
What are some
onerous.
Okay, predatory.
Oh,
Okay.
that's a good one.
Predatory is one word you could use. Oppressive.
Mhm.
You think?
I feel like we
We'd
should
like
be
to throw
consulting
around,
a thesaurus.
Unethical, but unethical is a hot button issue in some states. As soon as they hear that, they're like, whoa, legislator, unethical, we can't.
I still use the old-fashioned one here.
Yeah, for anyone who's listening, Mark just
See.
pulled out an actual printed and bound
Yeah,
thesaurus.
I'm not going to thesaurus.com. Let's see what
Word
we
hippo.
Yeah, I just
I,
went to Word
use,
Hippo.
I use this.
Word Hippo says
Okay.
discriminatory.
I love how they try to act like they're not shaving a bunch off. They're just like, no, we're not vampires. We're leeches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although I always wonder if they actually have a reflection in the mirror when they are, say, washing their hands in the bathroom, because
They do not.
They do.
They don't wash their hands and they don't have a soul. They have no reflection. Absolutely not. No.
The only way to
Based
get
on the-
rid of them is you have to actually burn them, which I tried to tell everybody.
But you got kicked off Twitter for it. Thanks a lot.
You said burn down. That was the problem. Just burn
I
them.
don't let myself drunk tweet anymore. I get too hyperbolic.
Anyway, corrupt.
There we go.
All right. How about questionable? I use that word a lot. These are questionable practices.
I like the
Morally dubious.
Morally dubious.
Oh, I like that.
It's more than questionable. Outrageous. How about outrageous?
It is my legal opinion that they are acting like a
Here
bunch
we
of
go.
punk ass bitches.
I
There you
like that
go.
one.
Is that in the thesaurus?
No.
He's got an older thesaurus, so yeah. Not in there.
That's the Urban Dictionary thesaurus.
Yeah. No, it's Roget's. The old Roget. Okay, so you got inexcusable, unpardonable, unjustifiable, wicked.
Yeah, that just calls to mind that Defying Gravity song. Maybe don't use that one.
Right. Venal. How about that? Venal.
No.
Sounds like venereal.
That's a Catholic
Yeah.
sins, isn't it? Aren't there cardinal sins?
Unjustifiable, inexcusable.
I like
I think these
venal.
are all good phrases we could use instead of unfair. I feel like if you go in and say unjustifiable, I feel like
or just anti-competitive. You could just, I mean, how's that, Mark? We just say anti-competitive.
Yeah, predatory. And it's, I think at the end of the day, what the real message is the antithesis of the free market. We're supposed to have a free market, and they're basically pulling all the levers and tying everything up so nothing's free. You're not free, for a long time you weren't free to even tell the patient you can pay $6 cash instead of $81 through your insurance company. You're trying to compete on a level playing field. It's not a level playing field. They're trying to drive you out of business. Yeah.
There was a big Reddit thread about that where they were talking about the North Dakota law where they won't allow chains in, and a bunch of people who didn't know what they're talking about were just like, well, if you don't allow chains in, that's not enough competition, and competition's good. And I was like, you don't understand. If the chains come in, that destroys all competition. They control the entire game.
Mhm.
Like, whenever you have more people competing, yeah, that's fine when the playing field's level. When you bring in these conglomerates, that doesn't happen. Like, I'm all for competition because that makes us better. But if I actually had a level playing field, I'd wipe the floor with them.
Well, and then
Most of us would.
There's also this point where you are contractually bound to not do what they're doing. You don't get to offer the same things they offer.
Right.
So
Right.
You mean I don't get
theoretically,
to commit Medicaid fraud?
what's that?
You mean I don't get to commit Medicaid fraud?
No. Sorry, that
I'm
400
contractually
million
bound
that they
to
got
not
out of
commit
New York,
fraud.
not yours.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous because let's just take the case. Let's just say for the sake of argument that this system, there was like a microcosm of a competitive market. They bring you all their patients, and you and everyone else in the network, including their own pharmacies, could compete for the business of the patient, right? The problem is that they put these contract clauses on all the other pharmacies in the network, and then you aren't allowed to offer what. So if your patient comes in and like, I'm sorry, this letter says that if I, go over here to CVS, I can get A, B, and C, and you cannot say to them, well, I'll match that or I'll do better. And that's something else that I think doesn't get really clearly understood by policymakers, by anyone who's in this argument looking at it from the free market point of view.
Right.
So it's frustrating. It's
Are
wrong.
you talking about that the copay is higher, or there are actually certain drug? I mean, you can't do a 90-day supply, that sort of thing.
Anything they can't offer. So let's just say CVS does a deal where they get like a 90-day supply for the cost of 60 days, or whatever is it. I mean, the weird thing that they're doing, and this is my example is not maybe the best, but one of the weird things that's been brought to my attention, and I've seen it for myself as a patient, is when you want to get a 30-day supply. And it's some like wildly expensive price. And then it's $100 and then you get a 90-day supply and it's like $10, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense because particularly if you don't need that much of the drug,
right?
It's just insane. But even that aside, let's say they put limitations for things like delivery. Like Jeremy can't deliver. We can deliver. Jeremy can't deliver. We can offer
I do it anyway.
special days. Jeremy can't.
Come at me. Trust me, I'll make it a big ordeal.
Well, Jeremy may not be the best.
I thought
You know what I mean?
certain states have laws saying you can deliver as an accommodation.
Some states do. That's true. But it comes down to like on a state by state basis, you, the pharmacist, it's really like, what does your state allow? Because left up to the PBMs, right? So today in my hearing, I'm so annoyed by this. Today in my hearing, the one legislator on the panel who clearly wasn't listening to a single thing anyone was talking about, kept talking about, well, this is an overregulated field. Now you're adding more regulation to overregulation, and missing the point that because there's been no regulation on this particular segment, they have been allowed to impose arbitrary rules on a state-by-state basis, which leaves 50 states having to sort of figure this out on their own, and then finding out, like in Arkansas, finding out that your law might not be enough to protect your businesses. So Arkansas is in the process of tightening their ability to regulate health plans that originate from states outside of Arkansas. Texas is looking at a similar situation. Yeah.
Because Arkansas right now, I'd say they're the gold standard in the country. I mean, they've had 2 sets of laws and they still got to go furher.
Yeah, they have to tighten the ERISA, and it's
the ERISA
Bill 95. I think it's House Bill 95. I'll look that up. I'm over here talking off the top of my head without the benefit of my notebook. So for anyone who's listening, if you want to know about the Arkansas bill, contact me, Monique at truthrx.org, and I will put this information out. And Texas has a similar situation. And so here you are, you've got, plans that you're trying to regulate. You are trying to do your best as a state to protect your patients, protect your providers, look out for the interests of the people who are insured. Then you find out, oh, this plan in our state originated in a different state. We have no jurisdiction on that. Therefore, patients have no option, providers have no option. Why? Because that is what these guys do. And it's just this patchwork of laws that may or may not protect patients, protect providers. And while I'm on my soapbox before I fall off, I just want to say, I'm so frustrated. Every time I've ever had a conversation, doesn't matter what the state is, there's always somebody who makes it sound like standing up for providers' rights is somehow dirty.
Yeah.
Like I've introduced like something like a pornographic reference or something. Like they're so offended by this thought that a provider, the person who is providing care or providing medication, might somehow have rights in this whole transaction, with the PBMs. It's so frustrating to me. And I just like to say, if any lawmakers are listening, there's nothing dirty about providers needing to be protected too. It's not this, 1960s world anymore.
They all think we make money hand over fist, and we don't anymore. That's not how that works.
No, it's really, so again, going back to that pharmacy that we were talking to the owner. So I don't want to give too much information away because I want to protect her identity, but she's got the oldest pharmacy in her state. And
wow,
she purchased it. This thing has been around since the 1890s, and she purchased it. She's barely scraping by. She has done everything she can to try to right the wrongs and fix this system. And she can't. She's limited by what she can do because of all of the ways that these massive, massive corporations have been able to manipulate the laws. And I know everyone thinks, oh, special interest money, blah, blah, blah. And there probably is something to that. But I just think that until we deal with the reality about insurance is not our friend, they've indoctrinated us in this idea that insurance is our friend. Until we get over that idea, we're going to be stuck in the cycle. And it's going to be a deal where patients are told, oh, you got a problem? Take it up with your health insurance plan. Who owns your doctor? Who owns your pharmacy? Who owns your hospital?
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Mark, what's next up now that you won that?
Well, God. Oh, God.
I feel like that's the question at the end of the Super Bowl. You've won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What are you going to do now?
I have an argument in Wisconsin tomorrow. We have 74 pharmacies in that case, but excellent judge, really engaged. I had a 2-hour argument last time, asked for more briefing. I sent him this opinion. He now says, I want to talk about this opinion. So I have that tomorrow. So cautiously optimistic there. In California, the case will go back to Alameda County. We'll start getting discovery in Illinois. Still waiting for the Illinois appellate court, but we have a hearing on March 30th to move that case forward. We just got to get a case up to trial. One of these places just got to get a case up to trial and threaten to expose them to the world and let the world see what the hell is going on. I've learned some astonishing things, but I can't share them in a public forum. It's under a confidentiality order.
Mark, how do people get in touch with you if they wanted to get in on what
well, just email, you can call me. I give out my cell phone, 215-266-0500. 5717, or just email me. The easiest email is Mark, M-A-R-K, at Cukerlaw, CUKERLAW.com. And I do get back to people quickly.
That's great. Yeah. And thank you again for everything you're doing. It's exciting. It's been a slow process.
Thank you for what you guys are doing. Thank you for getting the word out about this opinion. You get a tremendous job. It showed up everywhere. So you were really firing on all cylinders.
Yay. Yeah, we were excited when that came through. It was like, hey, everybody, we just want to let you know we've seen a win here, and it's a very big deal.
Well,
it's
we
a big
appreciate
deal anyway,
that you
though.
timed it for St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That was very thoughtful.
Are you Irish, Shannon? That's a
Partially way back.
Anybody with Shannon as a first name is a 50% chance they're Irish, right?
Yeah, you know what? I am. It turns out my family is very, very Irish, except for the part where we're very, very Scottish. Does anyone else have this with like your DNA profile? If you've done the like 23andMe or whatever, mine, there's like this competition. It's always switching. It's always like either you're more Scottish or you're more Irish, but it's always by 1%. And I'm sort of like all the British Isles. Really? I don't know if anyone else is having an experience, but every time I log in, which isn't admittedly that often, it switches. It's different.
Oh, really?
Time. Yeah.
Interesting.
Did anyone else feel like when you were watching Everything Everywhere All at Once that was basically defining your life no matter what? Even the part with the weird long hot dog fingers.
I've not watched it yet.
I had a lot. I actually fell asleep watching that movie.
Okay.
I couldn't follow it after the first half hour.
I mean, it was like, I'm not like the world's best student of the metaverse. I'm a little over all of that kind of stuff. But when I was watching, I'm like, this just feels like my life every single day. And there were these sequences where I was like, because I feel a lot of times like everything's coming at me everywhere, all at once. Like no matter what you do, like you think you're like, okay, I think I got it under control. Things are going great.
Yeah.
In this time, and then you get jerked into something, and you're like, oh God, here I am. I'm at battle with insert thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Usually though, and I'm just going to say it's because of the PBMs. Mostly my life, pretty good life, except for the part where 18 hours a day I'm eating, drinking, sleeping, thinking about all of the stuff that all of us are doing. Because once you see what's happening, I don't know, Mark, if you have this experience, but like once you see what's happening, it's hard to unsee it. It's hard to not walk away from it. I mean, I remember when Shannon like actually got it faster than I did. It took me several months when I first started with PUTT to really get it. And then when I did, I was mad. I was like determined I was going to do something. Shannon, you and I had only been working together maybe at most a couple of weeks at most. And you were like, you got it that fast. And we're like just up to speed and already like, throwing shots across the bow and just really doing this amazing work. And that was where I was like, I've met my work soulmate in Shannon. Gets it. She gets it. And we've just not stopped since then. So again, everybody join PUTT, keep Shannon and I.
Absolutely. If you're an independent pharmacist, you really need to be in PUTT like you need oxygen to breathe.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. We
We're the guerrilla fighters of pharmacy.
Yeah, well,
we are.
We talk about the things that other organizations have a hard time talking about. The American Pharmacists Association is having its annual meeting in Phoenix. I want to say this weekend or maybe next weekend. And I was looking at the agenda, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the agenda they have. It's really, really good. It's lots of clinical work and lots of continuing education credits and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot. I don't remember seeing anything actually on pharmacy benefit managers or the threats that are out there. And I feel like that's the gaping hole in the industry that we have to be able to deal with.
Well, their problem, but CVS is all the CVS pharmacists belong to that organization.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right? That's their problem.
Yeah.
The California Pharmacy they've told me that they can't take a real hard line on this for that reason too, that all their pharmacists are members, including pharmacists at the chains. So
which is sad.
Which is why NADAC is now taking a hard line, because CVS dropped out of NADAC. So NADAC is now coming out against pharmacy benefit managers because CVS is no longer with them.
Wow.
And CVS is like, I think probably the only corporation out there that can afford to undercut its pharmacies at the point where it's dangerous to patients, dangerous to the workers there, dangerous to the pharmacy workers, and dangerous to the patients. they can afford to undercut them and make it look like they're making no money. Like, oh, us too. It's the
Yep.
drug makers. Us too. We're so poor. Meanwhile,
Poor pitiful pookies.
it's just,
It's
I
so
don't know. There's just
sad.
times where it's like, why can nobody see this? But then why
Sad
can
vampire panda.
All right. Now that we are coming to the end of our drinks and our happy hour time together, Mark, thank you so much for being with us tonight. It is always a pleasure to spend time with you, always, whether
Same
we're on
here,
our
and
podcast or
thanks for everything you folks do. You guys remind me why I do what I do. So
And
the
everyone
Rockstar
raise
Pharmacy
a
Law,
glass to
Mark.
Rockstar Mark.
yes, raising
Right.
a
Well
glass.
done,
Here,
sir.
here.
thank you.
Thank you so
Now
much.
beat the
Here's
pants
to
off of
many more
PBMs.
victories for independent pharmacies.
More
Mark.
to
Here's to
come.
many
Yes.
more.
More to come.
Yes,
This is just the
Cheers.
beginning.
Beautiful. And then the last thing I would like to say, and then I'll turn it over to Jeremy and Lauren for final words, is for anyone who's listening, this is not an exclusive happy hour. Anyone who hates PBMs can join our PBM on the Rocks anytime they want. And if you are interested in being on PBM on the Rocks with us, simply let Shannon or myself know. You can reach me at Monique@truthrx.org or Shannon@truthrx.org.
We have very difficult emails.
Unless you've argued with me on Twitter.
Or tag us on Twitter.
Yes, that is
Yes.
true.
We're happy to have you. All right, Lord Dr. Jeremy, any last words for you?
Fuck PBMs.
Those
Well
are good
said,
last
sir.
words.
I'm a simple man.
In a few words. Two.
And Vice President Lauren Young, any last words for you?
I mean, Jeremy really said it all. That's why I should have gone before Jeremy. We all knew what he was going to say, but totally agree. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. It's so refreshing to hear from you and get an update. And again, if you haven't joined the Punch lawsuit, get in touch with Mark's law firm, get in touch with PUTT. This is an easy way to advocate for your store
Absolutely.
and
We
get
do
the word out.
Yeah, you just give us some information. We do the heavy work.
Help us
take
punch
on
him in the
aggregation.
mouth.
That we don't do.
We'll take that on Jeremy.
Figuratively.
We'll do
Twitter, figuratively.
Don't tweet that. Don't tweet that.
Thanks for joining us on PBM.
Okay,
Talk to
thank
us
you.
next time.
Cheers.
Good evening.
To learn more about Pharmacists United for Truth and Transparency and how you can help fight PBM abuse of our healthcare system, visit our website at truthrx.org.